Hi there, and welcome to Fantasy for the Ages, the show where father and son sit down and talk about fantasy books. I'm the son of that equation, Zach.
And I'm the father, Jim. Thanks for joining us again here today for another one of our episodes on The Shadow Rising. Zach, it's great to see you. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well. I actually just noticed something in our intro as it was playing there. Um, you do a great job with the tools that you have, editing things
Okay.
around, and I always enjoy it. It's definitely better than I could do. But I noticed for the first time, you can see through a little like wine glass or something that you're holding, a little curved background bit, and I'm just like, what part of the wall is that? I'm seeing the wall, right? And I think I just never expected to see that.
Oh, I do want to upgrade that intro. We got to come up with better pictures. I look like a slob in half of those.
You, I'm not even in the right state.
But it's something. And as more and more people are watching us on YouTube, definitely want to upgrade that. We'll get there. We'll get there. I just need some better shots.
Outro video first.
Okay. Okay, still got to get other details. You are correct.
Anyway, how you
Uh,
doing, Dad?
I'm doing fine. It's a Saturday. It's a nice Saturday in February. We're almost 60 degrees here today. Actually, it hit like 68 yesterday out of the blue.
Ooh, you're
We won't
sweating.
see. Yeah, I went for a bike ride. We won't see any weather like that again for weeks, probably, but it was here. It was gorgeous. And legitimately, I went for a bike ride under doctor's orders.
Because your doctor told you to exercise more?
Not exactly. I've been supposed to exercise for years, and the doctor always encourages that. But my foot's been hurting lately, so I've been walking less. And I was at a
Gotcha.
doctor's appointment. I showed him my foot. He said, "Yeah, I think you have a fracture." Ah, one
So
of those
what'd
little
you do? Is it
metatarsals.
just like you walk too much?
That's what he said. Probably from overuse, it's a little stress fracture. So try something else like cycling, bike riding. I went,
It is good
I
to
can
vary
do
your
that.
exercise.
Yes. So got on a bike ride and I'm,
Still
not
in
as sore
one
today.
piece as far as I can see.
Yeah.
Then again, I cannot see your lower half. For all I know, it's no longer there.
I might not have anything on. Let's not talk about that.
Mm, we're not that kind of podcast.
Yeah, that's right. Zach, what are you drinking today? Anything interesting?
Kind of. I'm calling it the Young Grasshopper. Um,
Oh,
the Grasshoppers is a drink that I'm aware of, but I'm not accomplished enough in my bartendering. That's not a word. To actually do well. But I was out last night and tried out a new speakeasy, and they had a drink called the Grasshopper there.
wait. A speakeasy? You actually
Yeah.
have places you're calling speakeasies down there?
Well, I mean, if it's okay,
Was
if
it
it is
hidden in the
a
back behind a
unmarked
shop?
door that goes down to a basement that then is fully decked out as like oaken barrels and dark lighting and a fantastic bar. It feels very speakeasy-ish, and it was all bourbon themed stuff. It was great.
Could be
Um,
Max from the Dresden Files too. That's kind of
I
got that
mean,
same vibe.
I'm not there yet.
Not that you know yet, because you haven't started reading those.
No, I haven't. I'm still working on the Broken Earth trilogy currently.
Okay, so Young Grasshopper.
Yes, the Young Grasshopper. It's creme de menthe, creme de cacao. I threw in some Kahlua just because I like it, and then you can use cream or in my case milk, and it's just a nice
Well, you can. There you
desserty
go.
drink.
I love the cup.
I
We can't see what the drink looks like, but it's a
mean,
great cup. Yeah, don't tip it to show us, because
I was about to, and then I was like,
gravity.
I
Yeah.
don't want to do that. I would cry. Are you drinking
uh,
something?
I am drinking something, and my drink is purdy. Look at that thing.
Ooh, it
Yeah,
matches your shirt again.
kinda. I call it Blue Lightning Power. It, because it's blue, and lightning power has something to do with today's episode. So it is a Watt Tail. Blue Lightning
What?
Power. Oh, and that's good. It's
So
straight
what makes it
booze.
blue?
Uh, blue curacao.
Okay.
It's also got Cointreau in it. So That's it. Those two ingredients mixed together.
Is
Boom.
that how you say that?
I have no idea.
Fair
Cointro,
enough.
cointro, cointreo. I mean, I don't know. Looks like cointro. If somebody else knows that I'm mispronouncing my liquor, help us out and let us know.
Anyway, what else was in there?
Blue Curacao and cointro, and that was it.
That's
Those
it?
two.
It's just the two things?
50-50 mix. That's it.
Very simple.
Straight booze,
Shaken,
but neither
stirred.
one of those are really heavy. And yeah, you just shake it in a cocktail mixer with ice and then strain it and drink it. Boom. Very
Simple,
good.
elegant, tasty.
Emmeline in Discord says Cointreau.
There we go. I knew it was something, and I was like,
that does sound better.
I've heard what the correct on this is, but
now,
I don't think I can pull it
might
out of my
just
brain.
be across the pond where they say that, not here in the States. But I'm going to go with she's right because
No, I
it
think she's
sounded
right.
elegant. It's the first time I've had it. I didn't buy it. This is part of the booze left over when your sister moved to Minnesota and didn't take all the liquor. We kept the liquor. Again, part of her moving expenses.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Can only fit so much in a car. All right. Just a couple little details, and then we'll get into our content this week.
What we got?
First, last Wheel of Time episode, we, on a tangent, talked about the lottery numbers from the show Lost.
Correct.
Because 42 was a number that came up in our discussion, and I was like, I'm pretty sure that's the first number on those lottery things, Lost. And I looked it up, and I was totally wrong. It's the last number.
But that works
42 was the last number. It is also still the answer to everything.
Life, the universe, and everything.
Right, but that was separate things.
The real question is, what is the question?
That is the question. You're right. The other is just a odd, trivial thing. And, we follow our numbers for our podcast and YouTube. It's part of how we know how we're doing. I mean, people who write reviews for us or give us a star rating, that kind of gives us some feedback, and that's great. But just raw numbers of downloads helps us to understand, are people finding us? Are they catching on? So we do appreciate any of you who do that. Give us a like, thumbs up, give us stars if you're listening to podcasts, whatever you do. Thank you. But the actual downloads were interesting this week.
Okay.
Because
how so?
On just the podcast version, our audio version, we had a single day where we spiked over 450 downloads.
Nice.
Almost all of them through Apple Podcast. Because I can track where people are downloading our content
to some extent, at least.
Yeah, and usually there's a spread upon Apple and Google and Deezer, which is more international place to download things, and Spotify, all those different spots. But this was like, boom, a big explosion on Apple Podcast. And then the next day, 15.
I mean, you got to have variety. It's nice to have a range.
450 plus, and then 15. So yeah, it's just all kind of by chance.
Numbers aren't boring.
But when a new person finds us and chooses to subscribe and download all our content, that's one person is nearly 100 episodes. I mentioned that to point out we're getting close to episode 100, the musical episode. It's still coming. It's coming.
Oh.
I have ideas. We need to talk offline at some point.
We need to
start putting these ideas into meat, plans, put some bones on it, but we'll get there.
I'll get my people on it. They'll reach out to your people, and then we can schedule in 3 to 7 business weeks, a powwow to discuss it.
This is episode 95. So 5 episodes from now, the musical episode. I can assure you, those of you watching or listening to this, it's going to be awesome. Possibly because it's awesome. Possibly because it's so bad. It's awesome. But either way, it will be awesome.
Probably, depending on what you're looking for, a bit of both.
Probably. All right, let's get into these fantastic chapters we're talking about today from The Shadow Rising, chapters 8, 9, and 10. We call this episode Under Attack.
Mm-hmm.
And watch for that as we work through these 3 chapters, because it applies to all 3 chapters in different ways. It does. So starting with chapter 8, which is called Hard Heads.
So we're talking about Rand.
In part, it could apply to others too. But this is a direct continuation from chapter 7, where Egwene let Rand down easy, sharing that she doesn't love him anymore. In her mind, smoothing the way forward for Elaine to move on in.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're effectively going to see now in this chapter.
Gotcha.
Elaine
We're watching
making her
Elaine
move.
slide into Rand's DMs.
Yes. The initial pages are pretty much full of the jerky and awkward words between 2 young people who like each other but don't want to be the first one to say it. It's uncomfortable, it's silly, and to me, it was eminently recognizable. I mean, RJ is often discounted as not doing relationships well in his writing, but this here, he nails this part. I could totally picture a couple teenagers having this conversation as they try to acknowledge they like each other.
Well, and yet, and this is what kind of gets me. Is it realistic? Yes. Is it good for developing a good, strong relationship that is going forward from here? Not really. It's awkward and not what I want to read.
That is how many relationships start out, though.
Yeah, but we just skip those beginning parts. It's like, ew. I've already been through this once. I don't need it again.
The opening section of the chapter is presented from Elaine's point of view, and we see in her perspective her very definite, deliberate escalation of this encounter. I mean, Elaine progresses really quickly from declaring her fondness for Rand to getting him to kiss her quite soundly. She pushes matters much more emphatically than she normally would have done. And why is that? Why is she pushing the envelope?
Yeah, she's got very limited time to work with here. And there's some stiff competition, especially when she considers Berlin was just in here the other night wearing what she was wearing.
All right, we need to pause this. We're getting a signal. My signal is not good right now for some reason.
Correct. You are a mess.
And I have a weird signal on here that my Wi-Fi is unstable right now. I don't know why. Great. Yeah. So I'm going to jump out and do what I got to do and jump back in. But this will stay running. So entertain the people, please.
That's terrifying. So while he goes, I'm going to try and juggle dice. No, I'm not. If I tried to juggle dice, what we would be left with is an injured Zach, a broken mic, and a drink that has dice inside of it. I see your suggestion, Emmeline. I see the rehearsal for our episode 100. But milk does not make a good vocalist, you know? That is a lie. I am not in a safe space here. With you guys, absolutely. That being said, this is the internet. This never dies. I am positive. Actually, I know for a fact there are videos of me singing on the internet. Some of them are very cringe, and some of them are fantastic. If you can find any of them, I am impressed. Actually, the cringy ones are probably pretty easy to find. Welcome back.
I don't see anything wrong on my end, and my internet is fine.
You look better.
I look better now?
Yeah, it's still kind of old, but otherwise.
Oh, burn. Well, hopefully it was just some glitch with the software when I got on. And
I'm just glad it wasn't me.
It's annoying that I couldn't tell on my end that there was any problem. So thank you, everyone, for letting us know. Sound better, not choppy anymore, Jodo says. But again, Zach, still old. Yeah. Okay.
Next time, if you go choppy, I'll just start talking like a robot. That way, you think I'm going choppy, and you know something's wrong.
Okay. There. Good enough. Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Moving on. We had been talking about Elaine, that this being her point of view and how she had escalated this situation so that,
Yes,
hey, I only have so much time here. Got to get this moving.
they skip from awkward talking to making out. Not really, but kind of.
Yeah. Yeah. And why did you say that was? What's her urgency?
There's a necessary escalation with, especially A, limited time. She's going to be leaving before too long and wants to make the most of the time she's got. And B, competition being what she perceives Bearlane trying to dig her claws in.
That trollop. Exactly. So Elaine actually, she's pretty successful, kind of moving on in here and actually getting a kiss out of him. And yeah, okay, woo, this is fun. But she pushes her luck just a little too far in the things she says to him, so that it dawns on Rand. Wait a second. Did you and Egwene plan this? Now, absolutely. But that's not what she says.
Yeah, granted, it shouldn't have needed to be pushed too far for him to make that assumption and realization. The two of them came together, started with one thing, ended with that, and then Egwene abruptly left. But Elaine stayed.
Elaine, of
Granted,
course, immediately.
I'm oblivious. I wouldn't have noticed.
She denies. I mean, innocent shock on her face, and then a little outrage. What, you think we would scheme something like this? Wow, you think a lot of yourself, Randall Thor, that we'd actually make plans? Oh, go into your head. And then he's all chagrined, and she's like,
Yeah. Negging is not cool, but it works on Rand. So we'll let it slide.
A quick mention is made of what occurred earlier, when Rand got angry and used the one power on both the women, and he apologizes again. And Elaine, in a show of compassion, uses healing on him to remove the pain in his derriere from when, after he pinched them, that they struck back. Now, at this point, it's clarified only in Elaine's head that she was the one who did it. In the last chapter, it looked like Egwene just lashed back, and then Elaine kind of chuckled and laughed. But no, Elaine did it to him. Doesn't admit that now, but she does take away the pain. So there you go. Next thing up, the door opens. Gaul sticks his head in, that Aiel who's on guard outside, and he averts his eyes. He doesn't look up. And Elaine's a little miffed at that. Now he's poking his head in to say, the High Lords are here to meet with you. Why is she a little irritated that he's got his eyes averted?
The first thing that comes into my mind is there's an assumption that people may not be wearing clothes.
Boom, chicka, boom, boom. Something like that.
I don't know if that's necessarily accurate, but I feel like that's accurate for what Elaine would perceive.
No, I think that's accurate. There might be some hanky panky happening in here, and protect the privacy. He's not going to just look.
I disagree for a reason we'll see later on.
Okay, I think I might know where you're going there. But Gaul could be a sensitive guy. Come on. Thinking beyond just how he would think of things, because I think that's where you're going.
You know what? Let's just let our listeners pay attention. Keep your eyes on Gaul. Let us know as we keep going and see more maybe. Is he a sensitive soul?
Jordo did drop something in the Discord. I'm not going to say it out loud here, but it's a good point. Probably goes to what you're thinking. And if you want to know what kinds of things are getting dropped in the Discord during these, join us on Patreon. Hey, I found a spot to make a plug. All Patreon tier supporters can join us in our live recordings and interact with us as we're throwing this stuff out to you. We'd love to have you join us. All right. So the High Lords are here. Fine. Elaine, time to go. She departs with her head high and proud, and thoughts going on in her head that mission accomplished. What she needed to begin with Rand, she succeeded with. And now over the next 4 days before they'll be leaving Tyr, She will just need to continue these efforts that she started. So she has Rand so wrapped around her finger that there will be absolutely no room for any other woman in his mind, in his thoughts, in his heart while she's gone. That should work, right, Zach?
Sure. Now, before we move past this, I do actually want to highlight something that we kind of skipped over. It's a minor thing, but I think it's actually quite endearing and sweet. Rand picks up some of the feathers and he wants to give them to Elaine, but like turn it into a flower. Because apparently, he knows how with the power to turn feathers into a flower. He feels confident about that. That's pretty cool, but it also fails. Notably, Rand is unable to touch the source this time when he tries. And then he gives the golden cloth that was woven. It's still an exchanging of gifts. Elaine's absolutely giving that to someone else, a seamstress maybe later, just as a gift herself. But she's going to keep those feathers, which I thought was really, really sweet.
Yeah, he thinks she's just cleaning up the feathers.
No, but it's
no.
She's keeping them because he wanted to give her a flower of them. I don't know, in my brain, I don't know if these feathers are ever mentioned again, but I really want to believe that Elaine hangs on to these for as long as she possibly can.
It's true. There are lots of little things like this in these chapters, and so all of you behind the curtain view, I've taken notes on the things we're talking about. Some things I skip over so that we don't have a 3-hour episode, but Zach can add more when he wants. And then if it gets too long, it's his fault.
Okay, that's fair. I'll take the blame.
Okay. But it was a good thing. It was great. And Jordo likes the long episodes anyways, he says. So here we go. One last comment before we move beyond Elaine. As she's out of the room, she's gone past the Aiel, she's amongst the defenders that are out there. She turns back, and as the doors are closing and the High Lords are surrounding Rand, who were summoned to him, she can't help but thinking, it looks right. He looks like someone who belongs there, commanding all these High Lords. Despite being a commoner, just growing up in the Two Rivers, somehow it seems right. And she thinks that's more than just that he's the Dragon Reborn. There's just something about him that leadership seems to fit.
It's the height. It's because he's tall.
People do assume but taller people, a little more commanding. I'm a little over 6 foot. It's worked for me.
Leveled up his charisma. Hold on.
What?
I'm not letting that slide. A little over 6 foot. You are 6 feet and half an inch.
Exactly. A little over 6 foot.
No, you don't get to just say I'm a little over 6 foot and let people assume that you're like 6'3", 6'4". No, you are 6 foot and half an inch.
I have run this for years, and proudly, I am over 6 foot. That half inch has made all the difference in so many things in my life. And how tall are you,
right now,
Zach?
6 foot even. So yes, you are still now technically taller than me.
I thought you were 5'11" and a half.
As a warning, no, I'm 6 foot. You're a little frozen again on my end.
Oh, serious? Oh, and it's giving a signal again. What is going on?
I don't know. Did you forget to recharge your batteries? Is that why you're a little choppy?
No. Be right back.
But no, to explain, for a long time, my dad thought I was going to be taller than him, but he also tried really hard to make sure I wasn't. I'm confident he put bricks on top of my head at some point.
It still says I have a problem. I'm still choppy, aren't I?
You are not still choppy. You may have a problem, but you are not still choppy.
I may have a problem. Okay, if I get bad, let me know again. We've not had such technical difficulties before.
We will do our best to not make it a 3-hour episode.
All right. Especially for Emmeline. It gets a little late for her. All right. Where were we? Oh, moving on. We're done with Elaine. Boom.
Past the charisma.
But let's keep going. It's Rand's time now. So as the chapter continues, we switch point of views.
Mhm.
So Rand has seen Elaine leave, and he's surrounded by these High Lords of Tyr. But he's still thinking about Elaine. Now he's got work to do. He's got business to get down to.
Let's get
And
down to business.
we're going to attack the Huns?
I mean,
See, I got that. I got it.
it's a pretty. I would have been shocked if you didn't get that reference, Dad. I would have been ashamed of you.
Oh, well, I'm glad I didn't disappoint. But so the rest of this section with Rand and his POV is going to be a hodgepodge of him thinking about Elaine while him talking to the High Lords and dealing with them. So I mean, it starts out they're surrounding him, and all he can think of is, "Wow, I had that dream with Elaine and Min and Egwene at the Waterwood and swimming and things, and now part of it's like come true. I mean, Elaine had never looked at me before, and now suddenly she's got the hots for me. And Egwene was turning away and going away, and she just turned away and went away. Wow." So he's kind of in disbelief that this actually has happened.
Yep.
Yeah. And as we go into this rest of this section, back and forth, that he's thinking Elaine, but he's talking High Lords, and I found it a pretty nice piece of writing. I thought RJ did a really good job here.
Hmm.
But for simplicity of talking about it, I want to kind of separate the two. So I just want to talk about his thoughts about the women first. Then we'll move on to him
Gotcha.
dealing with
We're
the High
doing
Lords.
RJ dirty.
we're doing
We're
our
gonna
listeners
disrespect
proud,
his
okay?
wonderful work and make it easier to listen to on our end.
So, as to his thoughts on Elaine and Egwene, suffice it to say, he remains a pretty confused young man. He still questions to himself whether Egwene and Elaine really maybe had were in cahoots.
They were.
Yeah. It seems too good to be true. He's got his doubts. He also questions what Elaine really means by all that was just said. I mean, what does she truly expect from him? Was she actually kind of saying she loved him? She didn't use the L word, but is that what she meant? Surely
But
not.
she also implied that like they can be kissing and doing things like that without needing it to be something that will lead to marriage.
So
How
maybe she
many
doesn't want
guys
too
has Elaine
much.
kissed? It's a whole question.
Then his thoughts shift as well to the other woman from that dream, Min. It's like, sure, he really likes Egwene. Oh, not Egwene, sorry. See, even I'm getting confused by Rand.
Egwene, Elaine, it happens.
Really likes Elaine, but he also kind of has the same feelings for Min.
Yeah, he started catching feels apparently before he, up and abandoned all of them in the last book.
So his thoughts about Min and Elaine, he finds in his own head are very muddled, very similar. And it's just complicated. He's a mess.
He's also like very. He doesn't understand a relationship.
He's
or at
only
least
19.
not how we understand it. He just jumps from I feel like I might be catching feels for this one or this one. Which one would I really want to marry? But I can't do that with any of them anyway.
But one thing, he's done with Egwene.
Yay?
I'm good with that. Yeah, I'm good with that. All right. As to the High Lords, then. Okay, we're done with the women. Let's move to the High Lords. His dealings with them are fairly straightforward. Remember, he already chucked one group of High Lords out of the room earlier today. That,
Literally.
Torian literally had airtime. Yes. Those had come of their own accord, though. They wanted stuff from Rand. So here they were. Now, this group, Rand had summoned. And they're already a little unsure of what to expect because word got out of what happened to Torian.
like, did you summon us to throw us now? Are you having a competition?
Are we the
Are
next
Aiel
footballs?
scratching the stone tiles of which lord gets thrown the furthest?
Then they also look around the room. Now remind us of what they're seeing in this room. Rand's bed chamber. What's the condition?
It's a destroyed mess. He's destroyed another bed. The tables are warped and burned to a crisp on top. the fireplace itself has evidence of being encased in a large inferno. A lot of the gold filigree that drapes around the room and the mantle of the fireplace has been melted.
Yeah.
This is not a pretty sight if you're coming in and expecting, is this person sane or not?
It's like, what? Yep. By the way, I just gotta say, this drink is really good. Okay. Of all the Watt-tails I've done, this is one of the best. So
Yeah.
if you were thinking of trying one, Cointreau Blue Curacao, man.
Honestly, between you and I, I'm feeling like at one of these chapter points, we might have to take a quick break to refill.
Because you want to make one of mine, or because you need another version of yours?
I will probably need more, but it's fine.
Yeah, just at some point, start going all choppy and saying, I need to restart for a moment, and then go get a drink real quick and come back.
I don't think anyone would buy it. I am not that good of an actor.
All right, let's talk about... I just read the Discord. Again, you got to join us on Patreon to see some of that stuff. We're not going to share that one. All right, we've got some High Lords with Rand here. He has brought together because he wants to talk about some things. Now, Sunaman is named as the primary speaker, but there are two others that are right away particularly highlighted, Carleon and Tadosian.
Gotcha, they're named. They'll be back.
Rand points out those last two on purpose in his thoughts because he's noticed how they won't look at each other. They're here with a group that he summoned, but they won't ever look right at each other. And that he wouldn't even noticed. I mean, that's kind of odd, but he wouldn't have even noticed it if not for a note that was in his coat when it came back from the cleaners. A note from Tom that had been slipped into his pocket. So he'd read something in this note that gave him insights to these two. What's that about, Zach?
I don't think we actually get told exactly what that note said. However, between the fact that Tom's been kind of doing this undercover-ish and sneaky work for Rand, giving him an upper edge, bits of information, and their behavior, it really seems to show, those two are trying awfully hard to seem like they aren't connected to each other somehow.
Back in chapter 4, when Matt went to visit Tom, Tom was writing notes. He was doing some forgery.
Were the lords named in that?
The one that he was writing, it says, the High Lord Carleon himself would have thought it was his own hand. So he was forging Carleon, and it says after the note, only those words and no signature. Now, if he could arrange for the High Lord Tadosian to find it where his wife...
So it is actually those two.
Those are the two.
Gotcha.
Tom's been screwing with them.
Tom's been messing with them. One of them thinks the other's been sleeping with their wife.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
So he has them at each other. And
I didn't remember that those had been actually named.
They were.
And it were those two.
So there you go. Quality content from Fantasy for the Ages. Bam. Yep. The reason for this morning's summons now, let's talk about this. It's about taxes. Rand has ordered taxes to be lowered.
Is this the second time this episode we're talking about taxes?
Well, that was before we got on air.
Was it?
We were talking about income tax.
Ew.
Because my son's an adult now. He's got to pay tax. He's got to figure this out on his own. Yeah, and he doesn't like taxes. And that's just something throughout. There are some more worldly things that Zach and I will sometimes talk about. Taxes, politics, stuff. We don't bring that into the real show because this is a fantasy podcast. We talk about fun stuff. But
sometimes
in this case,
RJ brings taxes in for us.
That's right. So taxes are in here. But I like Rand's thought on taxes. He wants to lower them. Yeah. Rand
especially lower them for, the lower income normal people.
The peasants.
The people who actually pay the taxes, because goodness knows none of these High Lords are paying taxes.
Right. But he's getting pushback from these rich dudes, the High Lords, the ones who get the tax money. And in particular, another one is named Mylan. And he speaks
Remember the
up that,
name.
yeah, remember the name. If we lower the taxes, that sets a bad precedent, my lord. Because, basically the peasants are used to these taxes and they pay them. If you lower them now, well, that's going to make it so ugly when we have to raise them again later. There could be riots.
That's a really dangerous, slippery slope because you're basically saying, oh, they're so used to being treated terribly. If we actually treat them with respect and dignity, they'll have complaints if we try to do horrible things to them again.
Rand counters, hey, there'll be riots if the taxes keep going at unbearably high amounts like you have them now. It's better to lower them, care for the common people. Now, the High Lords, they've got reasons and counters for everything Rand suggests. Basically, we like life the way it is and stop changing things. Quit moving our cheese. The dialogue demonstrates how self-centered and out of touch they truly are with the common man.
Meanwhile, Rand is a mover and a shaker and quite literally a farmer like a couple months ago.
And he is tired of this crap. We get to the point in the conversation where he says, I'm the boss, okay? Suck it up, do what I said. And they just smile, not genuinely, kind of grinding their teeth, and they listen. Now, Zach, I'm someone who professionally coaches people in leadership skills. And I can tell you Rand's approach here, all messed up. But I want to ask you, what do you see wrong in how he ends up addressing this with the High Lords?
Well, taking into consideration the exact circumstance where he is, how things have been in the past, his first mistake is not executing all of them.
We might get there. We might.
The system was so broken, it's at a point where you got to kind of clean house, get rid of the bad blood so that you can start uplifting what's in there. Now, if there were people that were actually valuable and good people, there might be a couple in there. Those you should start listening to, encouraging their ideas and guiding them towards what you think are the right decisions, not trying to bully them into yours.
I'm just laughing at Emmeline in Discord. She likes your strong and decisive thinking. Kill them all! But you made a valid point. Sometimes the people in leadership are the wrong people, and you need to move them out. You need to eliminate them. Maybe it's the guillotine. I don't know, but you need to make some changes. Other times, you can influence people. But leaders who really accomplish something do it through influence, not by autocracy.
Can you tell he's dictating. My dad that I was able to say basically that?
You did a good job. Yeah.
I've spent a while being told it a lot.
I noticed I have another one of these drinks where my tongue is turning blue.
Your tongue's blue, yeah.
Oh.
Your tongue matches your shirt and your background.
Awesome. All right. We finished the chapter by jumping back to Egwene. Now, she'd left Rand and Elaine to do what they're going to do. And as she's walking through the tower, her thoughts have shifted back to the Black Sisters, those prisoners, and what they're going to do next. And, well, Matt Cawthon suddenly shows up at her side walking along in the hallway.
It's your boy, Matt.
She has not seen Matt in a while. And in their conversation that flows here, first of all, we learn why she hasn't seen Matt in a little while. The last time she saw Matt was when she and Nynaeve, and maybe Elaine was there, I don't remember for sure, but Egwene and Nynaeve for sure, had come to his room to ask back that letter from the Amerlin that they had given him in Tar Valon. What was that letter about? Do you remember?
It was a whole letter that said, hey, the bearer of this letter does what they do in my name. Let them do what they want and keep it quiet.
Right. So they want it back. And Matt's like, hey, that was a gift.
Heck, better than a gift. That was payment.
You gave that to me so that I could do what you wanted me to do. You didn't say anything about takebacks. So he saw that as his personal possession. They stole it now from him. And they're like,
Well,
we never said that was a gift or payment. No, we let you use it to get off the island. And okay, now in this conversation with Egwene, he acknowledges that. Yes, it's because of you I was able to get away from Tarvalon. So I guess I owe you.
you say they stole it from him. I don't think you actually went into the detail of they picked him up with the power and restrained him while they rustled through his things, found it, and took it.
Well,
Granted, they did actually ask first.
Yes, in his mind, he's like, they asked for it, and I said, no, it's mine. And then they took it anyway. And in their mind, they're like, we very reasonably came and asked for it back. And he said no. He had no right to say no. So, yes, we used our power and took it.
That being said, step 2, when someone tells you no, should probably not be physically assault them with powers that you have, but we're going to look past it.
Now, this plays into exactly Matt's feelings about Aes Sedai in general. So, this is why they have not seen him much. He's been staying away. He doesn't like Aes Sedai powers and such. So, that's what you're going to be like? Fine. I'm going to be somewhere else. Also, he mentions, that Elaine, you hang out a lot with her, and her nose is stuck up so high in the air. Not my thing.
I was not expecting you to go to the air, but I'm okay with it.
Where did you think I was going to go?
We're not going to worry about where else you might stick a nose.
Elaine wouldn't stick it there.
Up her own?
The other thing he mentions is, Moraine. She's around too. That kind of fits all into this Aes Sedai thing. And he'd rather be off doing things that bring him more pleasure, like gambling or drinking or canoodling with the female maids, cooks, and servants of the stone. Now, he doesn't really say that one, but as they're walking along, every time they pass a pretty girl, his eyes wander, and it's like, really, Matt? I'm right here. We're having a conversation. You can't keep your mind on the one thing we're talking about.
No, and apparently they're not all like his age. Some are like 10, 15 years older.
And I get the impression some of them kind of smile back. So it's not all one way, I don't think.
Oh, I got the impression they were smiling more at Matt than he was at them.
See? But now, Matt is here finally talking to Egwene, and he says, I'm here for advice. I'm trying to figure out what to do. I know I can't leave. She's like, you're still not thinking of leaving, Tyr, are you? No. I know I can't leave. No matter how I've tried, what plans I've made, somehow I feel like I gotta stay here. So don't worry about that. But how do I move forward in life? I've got these big holes in my memory.
Mm-hmm.
Weird. And every time I turn around, apparently I'm spouting off things in the old tongue, and I don't even know I'm doing it. Other people are like, whoa, what are you saying? I need to figure out what to do about all this before I go mad. Zach, remind us where those memory holes came from.
When he woke up in Tarvalon after being healed from his time with the dagger, there were gaps in his memory. And every time that that dagger ick had been healed out of him in some extent, there were pieces that were missing, and it wasn't quite the same Matt. It was still our Matt, but he misses things like, did I have a 4th birthday party? I don't really remember.
It's like the ickiness contaminated all different parts of his memories. It wasn't just the things directly related to the dagger. And they just had to withdraw whatever.
It took a wonderful tried and true approach of just cut out everything you can.
Yeah.
Without killing it.
I mean, there is a real life analog. Someone who has brain cancer, a tumor of some kind. And if they can surgically remove it, they sometimes aren't the same person because they had to take things out, and it changes you.
There is a real life analog, and cancers and tumors are a great example. However, book recommendation out here, since we are a book podcast, The Emperor of All Maladies. It's one of the few nonfiction books that I actually enjoyed, but it kind of talks about the history of cancer and its treatment over the many, many years. And there was once very radical procedures that were surgery to deal with it. including like radical double mastectomies that were taking out as much tissue and muscle and anything that you could to make sure it got everything. It went a little too far, and we're glad we don't still do that.
Wow, we got real world tangenty on that one, didn't we? Ugh.
I
Do you work in
mean,
the
you
medical field?
started it. Maybe, but that one I was actually still a chem major when I learned about.
No, Jordan, he didn't say vasectomy. That's in Discord. And sometimes it went too far, and he's
Yes,
a
a
eunuch.
radical vasectomy, also called castration.
Ow. Okay. I had one more question for you, Zach.
Wait, about medical stuff or?
No, I'm definitely not asking you anything more medically related. But do you have a theory on where it's coming from when Matt is spouting the old tongue like he does? What the heck? Because that happened even before the dagger.
Yes, and Moraine's comments the first time it happened were the old blood sings, that his connection to those Manetheren roots are so strong in some way that it still kind of rises to the surface somehow.
But why is it becoming more pronounced?
Maybe the two things we just talked about are tied.
Maybe. We don't have a genuine answer yet.
So I can't
read on to find out. Yes. In the end, Egwene takes pity on Matt. And she shares there might be a way for you to learn what you should do to move forward.
But you should absolutely not do it. I mean, don't do it.
Yeah. Partly I'm like, really, Egwene? You're going to tell Matt this? But she does. She tells him about that doorway ter'angreal down in the Great Holding, low in the lower levels of the stone, that Moraine told Nynaeve and Egwene about. The place where you can go in and ask 3 questions and get true answers. And she gives him all the warnings about it too. And then says, but don't go in it unless you talk to Moraine first and get her permission. Yeah, I'm sure this is going to go just fine now.
Yeah, Matt has always been really keen to talk to Aes Sedai and get their permission for things.
And we all know he's a rule follower.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Hasn't broken a rule in his life.
Now, she does insist, though. Seriously, this is important. This might be the answer for you, but you have to talk to Moraine if you want to try it. Don't go in unless she gives her permission. Promise me. He scoffs. It's like, there's no bloody way I'm going to actually use something that's connected to the one power. You know that. But I'll point out, when he says that, that's his response. He never, at that point, promises not to use it.
You know, for not liking Aes Sedai, he's pretty good at their truths.
The conversation shifts then to, okay, well, what will you do, Matt? You're not going to use that. Okay, what will you do? And he notes, well, I guess I'll simply just do more of what I've been up to. Play cards, play stones with Tom, dice in the taverns. And then again, Egwene sees a little maidservant go by and Matt ogling her as she goes. And she just wants to slap him at this point. It's getting kind of old. But that's more of what he's going to do as well. This is what she's picking up. The conversation wraps up with Matt asking Egwene, so this stuff we talked about, and even you telling me about that ter'angreal, can we keep that away from Moraine? I don't want any more entanglements with her. You know how I feel about her. Can this just be between us? And that kind of sets off an alarm for Egwene. She's like, okay, if you don't want me to talk to her, you have to absolutely promise me you are not going to use that door at ter'angreal without Moraine's permission.
And here, he does promise something.
Sort of.
He promises that he won't go near the thing unless his life depends on it.
I swear. And that's the end of the chapter. We'll see where that goes. First time readers, pay attention. Chapter 9 is Decisions. And it moves us ahead 3 days. Ooh, time jump. Now, the point of view for this chapter is an unusual one for the Wheel of Time, in that we're going to flow fairly seamlessly between a number of characters.
Without
usually there's clear breaks.
Yeah, it's a little almost third-person-y.
It's kind of like a montage thing. You follow this, and then it shifts. The camera follows this person, and then it shifts someone else who walked by. Oh, we're going to follow that person now. I've
If
seen
this
that effect, and that's kind of
beginning
what he does with the
section of the
writing.
chapter is done in the show, it'll take all of about 20 seconds.
Well, we do start still with our friend Matt Coffin, and he's going a little stir crazy. See, things have gotten worse for him from his perspective over these past 3 days since he talked to Egwene. Because what he thought he'd do with his time has not panned out. Nobody wants to play cards with him anymore. None of the women want to do any canoodling with him anymore. No kiss and cuddle going on. Everybody seems to be avoiding him because apparently the story got out. What happened with those playing cards coming to life and trying to kill him. They're all a little worried and concerned about spending time with Matt Coffin.
Well, that stinks.
Perrin, all wrapped up in his own worries, so I can't even hang with my bud. And Tom, I'll go play stones with Tom. No, he can't find Tom. Tom seems to have disappeared completely these days. A bored Matt, very dangerous Matt. This is where bad things can happen.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think they're usually quite fun.
The only one that Matt seems to find plenty to his heart's content is Moraine. Every time he turns around in the stone, there she is, passing him in the hall, walking past the corner just ahead of him. It's like she's stalking him. She doesn't actually come up and talk to him, but he swears every time he turns around, he can see her.
Mm-hmm. He sees more and more rain.
More rain. He's getting kind of desperate. It's like, I've got to do something. I've got to get away from this Aes Sedai manipulation. That's what he's picturing. She's going to find a way to use him one way or another. So at one point, he actually grabs a lamp and goes down deep into the stone to the Great Holding and starts snooping around in there. You know what he's looking for.
I'm sure he's looking for like some treasure, a ring or something. No, he's looking for
a lamp.
The dang
lamp.
art.
I want my 3 wishes. No, he finds... Yeah, he's thinking, I need to find this ter'angreal. But before he finds it, he kind of like, what am I doing? And leaves, muttering to himself about being a bloody fool. There's one thing that helps Matt survive these days, and that's get out of the freaking stone, elsewhere into the city. Go to some taverns and inns, common rooms in the scummier parts of town where he's pretty sure Moraine would never deign to go. Spend some time dicing and drinking and just kind of letting go of the cares of life.
You know,
and that kind of works.
It's really interesting that Matt, as we saw in previous chapters, is getting a little more accustomed to a nicer lifestyle, but still feels more comfortable going and hanging out in a dive bar.
That's pretty much it. Yeah. He's just that kind of character. A real man's man. The people's people. But sure enough, at the end of every experience out there, he ends up going back to the stone. He just compelled to be close to Rand. He can't leave him. Now we shift over to Perrin, but it's a very smooth transition. See, Perrin has seen Matt in these dive bars, particularly the ones down by the docks. He's never
down by the bay.
He's not gotten Matt's attention. He's kept to his own because he's not there to dice and drink. Perrin's there for something else. He's looking for rumors, for stories of things happening in the world. He's trying to find a worthy adventure to catch Fail's attention.
So he can tell him about adventure.
What is he really up to, Zach? Why is he looking for some adventure that will catch Fail's eye?
He's trying to get her safely away from this mess, knowing that he can't. He feels too pulled and tied, and he's so wrapped up in this Ta'Veren pulling that he feels like, well, I can at least get her safe, but she won't just go. So I'll find something interesting, safer, but still interesting enough that she'll go, yeah, I'll go and I'll do it.
Fail has still expressed her interest in leaving Tyr, but she's made it more and more clear she wants Perrin with her. Doesn't want to just leave. Let's go. And Perrin, no. needs to stay by Rand. Now, all the rumors Perrin is listening to does drop a bit of world news on us. So, especially for the benefit of our first-time readers, we'll mention here these are all things of relevance and importance to the greater story. Although what you hear in these tales may not be exactly what's really happening, but they mean something of importance. So, first, he hears that there's war all along the Aerith Ocean,
Oh,
caused
no.
by what?
I said, oh, no.
No, caused by some people called the Sawchin,
That
or
doesn't sound
something like
right.
that. Yeah, and they may be the Sawchin group, may be Arthur Hawkwing's armies come back after 1,000 years, and Arthur Hawkwing himself may be leading the armies with his legendary sword, Justice.
Yeah, that sounds like a bit of bull. Moving on.
The Horn of Valeer has been found, apparently.
Yeah, we
That's
already
a
know
rumor.
about that one.
Riots are happening all over Gildan. Saw that on a TV show already.
Something
Outbreaks of mass madness are occurring in Ilion.
Interesting.
And the people of Tyr, they cheer.
I mean, kind of, yeah. I wonder if it has anything to do with some dark, shadowy dogs.
Could be. There's people dying in Kyrian because of famine. There are Trolloc raids on the rise somewhere up in the borderlands.
Which in Tyr just means, it's not our problem. It's somewhere way up there. And, it's the borderlands. It happens all the time.
And there are reports of trouble specifically in Saldaea. But no one's sure of what sort of trouble. Now,
that being said, yeah, Perrin's like, that could work. Fael's from Saldaea. That could be really interesting. Go home, be a local hero of sorts. Well, but I don't know what kind of trouble it is. What if it's actually really, really bad?
Yeah, that's the problem. He doesn't know, and he doesn't want to send her into something that's going to be devastatingly horrible.
I mean, if it's
that's
worse
where
than staying by Rand, then that's not successful.
Yeah, that's the place where Mazrim Taim, the last false dragon, had been and was supposedly captured by the Aes Sedai. But what if it's still stuff tied to that? His supporters trying to break him free or something, and who knows? So without good information, he's got nothing he can really throw to Fael and hope is going to work. Even worse, he's playing the dark and silent type with Fael, because he's spending all these evenings looking for rumors for her, and he won't tell her what he's doing. Because this is one point where he's not an idiot. If he told her what he was doing, that would blow up. That would not work well. So instead, he says, I'm a horrible liar, so I just won't say anything. What is she supposed to figure out from that?
Well, $5 says she knows. It may not have been her first thought. She may have thought he was sneaking around on her or something as the first thought, and probably started looking for assassins to go after Barrelane. But no, $5 says she knows.
Well, he's getting a lot of long, silent looks from Fael. So if she knows, she's trying to get him to fess up. It's getting awkward, though. And this is not good for a growing relationship.
Correct. Communication is key, and everyone's terrible at it in these books.
Now let's move back to Egwene and Nynaeve. We learn they've spent these days continuing to pour into the Black Sisters, the prisoners, trying to get new information out of them. And how's that worked?
They haven't.
Nada. Nothing. Zilch. We do get a little, one bit of world building out of Joya at one point in reference to Tanchico. That's worth sharing. And that apparently Tanchico has both a king and a panarch. We don't know what a panarch is, but the two of them have apparently some authority in Terabon, the country where Tanchico is the capital. But apparently they aren't exercising that authority right now. And so it's a very dangerous place. There's violence, killings. which is too bad. I mean, everybody knows about the beaches of Tanchico.
And so currently, while the lifeguard's not on duty, nobody can enjoy those beaches. No one can have those fruity drinks. Nobody can tan on them. There's nothing fun going on.
Very sad. Very sad. It's a mess. The girls are frustrated to have not heard any result of the messages sent to Tarvalon about the other rumor. Okay, the one thing was, okay, they went to Tanchico, so you should go there. But the other one was that plan to break Mazrim Taim free. And Moraine had apparently sent messages, about that. And yet nothing's come back. No response from the Amerlin.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing saying, oh yeah, it's all under control. Plot failed. Well done. Nothing. They're a little frustrated about that. Now, this little bit, we're actually in Egwene's point of view specifically. And we learn more about the growing friendship between Egwene and the Aiel Maiden of the Spear, Aviendha, who we've talked about a number of times already. Apparently, they are of similar age, and they have a similar sense of humor. Vast cultural differences that make some things a little awkward, but in other ways, they find they share some similarities.
Like what?
Well, for example, Aviendha walks in on Egwene bathing at one point, and they both have shocked perspectives there. Aviendha's shocked that Egwene is dirtying that much water. What are you doing?
It's a waste.
Egwene is shocked to have Aviendha walk up while she's naked in a bathtub, but Aviendha just sees that as, oh, you're uncomfortable because you're naked? Well, I'll fix that, and takes all her clothes off and sits down next to her. Not in the bath, just on the floor.
Which I would want to bring up now, as you probably expected. Let's go back to Gaul. Gaul averting his eyes because he thinks that Elaine and or Rand might be naked. I don't know. When we see Aviendha clearly has zero problem with nudity or seeing someone else naked, and views it as a weird Egwene being uncomfortable.
It's not nudity that's a problem for Aiel, though, and for Gaul averting his eyes. It's displays of affection. That's something Aiel are not comfortable with in public. So he wouldn't want to see them smacking.
We haven't seen anything to necessarily indicate that at this point.
I'm guessing that's what it is, though.
I mean, we can guess that. My only point
as you
being,
show, it's not
nudity itself is not. So I wanted to be clear about that and kind of illustrate that, since I mentioned it earlier.
Yep. I'm just putting the two things together to say that's the right conclusion, I think, to draw there. As you're highlighting, no issue with nudity, so it must have been the other thing. Another thing that's highlighted here in differences is Aviendha, takes all her clothes off. She sits on the floor. What's wrong with a chair? Aiel don't like chairs for some reason. The floor is for sitting.
Chairs aren't very mobile. They don't go with
sit
you
on
very
a chair.
Well.
Yeah. And then there's Berelain. Okay, this one's good. Aviendha doesn't understand why Egwene and Elaine haven't just taken care of Berelain. Get her out of the way. Like, challenge her to a knife duel. You definitely want her gone. Solve it.
Besides, she doesn't look like she'd be very good with a knife. It'd probably be easy.
See, a Maiden of the Spear, we learn here, cannot harm a woman who is not another Maiden of the Spear. Not a warrior. But Egwene and Elaine aren't Maidens of the Spear, so there's nothing stopping them from hurting another woman. And she recommends specifically a knife duel because, you could just fight with hands and feet, but Berelain looks tougher than that. She'd probably just keep coming back. You need to solve this definitively, so bring a knife to it.
Kill her.
Wow. Cold-blooded.
Aviendha has my same idea. If someone's not doing good things, if they're in the way, you just kill them. Done.
Leadership according to Zach. There we go.
Is it what I actually think? No. Is it effective? I mean, yeah.
Now, Aviendha and Egwene, they have a lot of extra time to build this friendship up because Elaine and Nynaeve aren't around all that much these days. Over these last few days, Elaine has pretty much been missing in action because she's busy doing what?
Canoodling and coaching.
Yes. We'll talk more about that in just a second. Nynaeve, though, okay, she's with Egwene when they're quizzing the Black Sisters, but any other time, Nynaeve's gone too. What's Nynaeve up to?
Canoodling. Well, not really. Long walks on the
Moonlit
parapets.
walks. Yeah, she's out there with Lan. They're spending every moment together that they can. Moraine doesn't need Lan right now. Nynaeve needs Lan right now. Now, Elaine, you mentioned, okay, canoodling, but you said coaching too. And that's true. She's finding ways to be with Rand anytime there's a spare moment. And in fact, the maidens that are helping guard him, they catch on to this and they think this is good fun. So they start making sure she knows when he's going to have a free moment in the schedule and helping her find little corners and quiet places around the stone where they can just duck away for a moment.
It's very
They're doing
kind of
everything
them
they can to put them
facilitate
together.
this relationship.
It's pretty good. So, yeah, they're spending all these little bits and pieces throughout each day together. Some of it is likely doing the kinds of things two young people who like each other and have some private moments do.
As we said, canoodling.
But Elaine is surprised to discover that part of the time Rand actually uses to ask her questions. He specifically starts talking to her about the kinds of things you would need to do in governing people. He's looking for advice and guidance as he tries to work with the rulers of Tyr. You know, she was raised to be the future ruler of Andor. She's got experience with this.
She knows things.
Yeah. So she's happy to talk about that too. And she is thrilled to see Rand genuinely listen, not patronize, genuinely listen to her and use some of her advice in his ongoing negotiations, interactions with the Terran High Lords.
Elaine, in a professional setting, becomes you and your job, and Rand is everyone that you interact with.
Yeah, only on that side. I don't.
Yeah, professionally.
She also, Elaine, I should note, is particularly happy that, okay, he listens to me and he kisses me, and that Trollope Barrelane hasn't been back in his bedchamber. Yes.
As far as she knows.
Oh, she's been keeping tabs. I'm pretty sure the Aiel would let her know at this point.
Have been. Yeah. They would know.
So she's pretty darn happy with Rand and with the world in general. Her plans are working brilliantly.
And looming on the horizon, she needs to leave some point.
Right.
So we're going to get the best while we can for now.
Now the chapter shifts specifically to Rand. So what has he been doing with these days, aside from his time stolen moments with Elaine? Well, he's been meeting with the High Lords in his chambers and issuing orders. He's also been appearing, surprise, at some impromptu, unofficial gatherings of High Lords. Secret meetings that have been taking place where suddenly,
Tom.
Hey, there's Rand. And yeah, you say, thanks, Tom. What do you mean?
Oh, Rand absolutely got his boots back from getting shined at one point, and there's a note in there, and his coat had a little tear in it that just got there somehow, so he went and got it mended, and, well, there was a note stitched into the seam. And Tom's been his man on the inside.
Been making sure Rand knows what's really going on, and who's meeting who where, and how to be in just the right place so that these High Lords start freaking out. Rand knows everything. We can't hide anything from him. And he's really trying to distract and divert them so that they don't, behind his back, manipulate for what they really want. And what is it the High Lords really want to see happen right now?
Rand dies and they get back in power?
Well, maybe. That's not where I was going.
Sorry, the other way. They would like to go to war with Ilion.
Yes, and they want him to lead them there. And he agrees, okay, we have to confront Samael at some point, but not through a war. I do not want a bloody and useless war to be the way I go after Samael.
We don't want lots of people to die, just one really bad person.
Rand is still trying to decide what he will actually do next. And now he's starting to wonder, am I procrastinating because of Elaine?
Yes, but not only.
I mean, dang, it's nice to just be a man and a young woman, beautiful young woman, kissing in the corner, forgetting for a while that I'm the Dragon Reborn and she's the daughter of Andor. No, we're just
Mhm.
two young people who enjoy each other. You can't really
I
blame Rand for feeling that way.
no, and I am absolutely positive that being a normal human with normal human desires and reactions will not hurt him or anyone else in the near future.
Yeah. The evening of this third day sees Rand meeting with the High Lords Sunaman and Mylon, and he's about to lose his cool. They
Going
just
lord
aired,
checking again? Just wee.
maybe. They have just now shared with him the lengthy treaty document they have prepared for Mayen and to deliver to the first of Mayen, with all the things that he wants to see happen in the new agreement between Tyr and Mayen. So here
And
you go, my lord. It's ready to be signed, however you want to say it. It's ready to be signed. And he's just gone through it and seen that, yes, it has everything he asked for and a whole bunch of pork. They've added all their extra stuff in.
especially including sending a whole bunch of soldiers.
And basically making Mayen miserable. Yes, we'll give you grain because the High Lord says you should have grain, but we're going to take this from you and we're going to do this to you and suck it.
We will
Deal with
give you
it.
grain and then we will take everything and leave you with nothing else.
Basically, they've twisted his intent in the Terran way, and he is fed up. And suddenly the treaty just bursts into flame. Thank you,
I spent
Sidene.
so long on that.
He says, "Did you even talk to Berlane about this?" "Well, no, my lord. I mean, why would we do that? We're used to dealing with Mayen from a place of power." "No! Stop it!" He says, "All right, I've told you what I wanted. You've proven you won't do it. So here's the deal. You rewrite this treaty the way I said it needs to be. You get it in front of Berlane by midday tomorrow, or I will see both of you hanged. And I will keep frickin' hanging High Lords 2 per day until you guys finally start obeying me." Except I just misrepresented Rand there. Because when he gets to the hanging part,
I know
he
he's
gets
calm, cool,
cold
and
and
collected.
calm. He started out yelling, and then he's like, "Ooh." And
He
that
means
scares them
business.
way more.
It's not just a mad, furious spouting of words that'll pass. No, it's a guarantee. This is not a threat. It's a promise.
So they start backing out of the room. They're bowing every other step. They're talking about their undying loyalty, their everlasting obedience, my Lord Dragon, and he is just sick to his stomach at this. And he starts yelling again, "Get out!" And they break and they run.
Yeah. Once you've actually put them in a state where they're actually afraid of you, then yelling is effective. Yelling's not good at getting them in that place.
So they're left alone now. Rand spends a moment pondering. He thinks on Kalendor, the sword that is not a sword that he almost actually reached for. He was so angry. Deal with these High Lords that way. That would
Would have
not have been a good
worked.
thing. The anger worked, maybe, but grabbing the sword would not have been.
Yeah.
He thinks how tomorrow the Black Sisters will finally leave for the White Tower. So hopefully that'll mean Elaine, Egwene, and Nynaeve will also go back to the White Tower. That's what he's
Not a
hoping. Forget about
chance.
Black Sisters. Go where it's safe. Because we know it's safe at the White Tower.
Yeah, nothing
Right?
could go wrong at the White Tower.
And then with Elaine gone, he thinks no more excuses. It will finally be time to move. He will make a decision. And then he ponders his hands. There's the heron scar in
Mhm.
both of them, the brands. And he thinks on the prophecy that references them. Would you read that prophecy bit from the Creathon cycle again for us?
Twice and twice shall he be marked, twice to live, and twice to die. Once the heron to set his path, and twice the heron to name him true. Once the dragon, for remembrance lost. Twice the dragon, for the price he must pay.
So while the heron's a little obvious now, what the heck's with dragons?
Yeah, what
That's
even is
something
a dragon?
he hasn't been able to figure this out. The only dragon he knows is the dragon, Luce Theron Telemon.
Is he gonna get little like LTT tattoos on his knuckles or something?
I mean, he's known as the Dragon Reborn now, but a dragon as a thing is not a concept here. It crosses his mind. Maybe it's that creature on the banner that I found at the Eye of the World that's up on top of the stone right now. Maybe that's what a dragon is, but I don't know. So what does this prophecy mean?
Which, notably, that creature does look kind of like our idea of a dragon, but not the European dragon, interestingly, which I think is fun.
More the Chinese style.
Somewhere around there. I want to say Chinese usually doesn't have, I could be wrong on this. I want to say Chinese doesn't have legs, but is a like elongated serpent thing like this. And the four-legged, but similar body shape of like Chinese dragon is actually Japanese usually in origin. I could be totally wrong. Someone will correct me.
Well, Jordo just dropped our dragon down there into Discord. There it is.
Dragon.
Well, Rand's ponderings and musings are interrupted at this point by a voice. You are changed from when I last saw you. Stronger, harder. And he spins around and it's the Lady Celine. He goes right up to her. He's surprised to see her in tear. What are you doing here? How did you get in here?
I can't believe you survived the civil war in Cairien.
And she just chuckles a little. I mean, he still thinks she's a young noblewoman from Cairien. But the conversation quickly reveals a few things, and Rand's eyes are open because a lot of other people already know who she is, and
including
he
us.
does not. Yeah, we know, and now Rand knows. Lanfear. She's one of the Forsaken, although she points out that's not a term they use. They think of themselves the Chosen. She claims that Rand is hers. But she senses he's been marked by another. But no matter. We'll deal with that.
Gotcha.
What do you think she means? You think she means he... What's that? That hit you. I thought it more of a psychic marking, perhaps.
I agree. However, it's accurate.
So she somehow can sense Elaine's been putting her hooks into Rand.
Maybe she's been watching.
Hickeys. I hadn't thought there. The Chosen, she says, will live forever, and Rand can join her in that destiny. Rand backs away from her. He's like, Forsaken, ah! And he's specifically backing away towards where he knows Kalendor is, behind him. Lanfear senses what he's doing. Suddenly, there's a firm wall of air behind him. He can't move. He reaches for the source, and he can't. He's been blocked.
Notably, it's not he reaches for it, and it's not there like he sometimes has been inconsistent. This is not a performance issue. This is Lanfear has stopped him.
Always little... You say performance issues. I know what you're joking at. That's... sorry. Just moving on.
I don't know what you're talking about, Dad.
But she says, yeah, I can't let you buy that. Kalendor? Nah. Can't let you there. I don't quite trust you that much yet. Her implication is, we'll get there. We'll get there. But not yet.
Someday I'll trust you won't just try to annihilate me.
She also mentions there were only two more powerful Sa'angreal that a man can use than Kalendor. Mm-hmm. One at least that still exists. That's all she says on that. Now, of note, and it's bugging Rand, she keeps calling him Luce Theron. And he challenges her. I'm Rand al'Thor. Why do you keep calling me that? And she says, well, I acknowledge you look different, but I see those eyes. The soul is the same. You are him. You also happen to be the same height. And I was like, oh, well, look at that. So apparently Luce Theron was a very tall man.
She's into tall guys.
Now, speaking of him looking different than before, she now reveals her true form because she doesn't really look like Lady Selene. That is a disguise. She transforms herself into what she claims is her true form.
Is it? The world may never know.
I mean, she might still be, photo brushing, who knows, but
Because
she
notably, she
remains
is still
amazingly
very
beautiful.
beautiful.
More mature, but only a very mature, voluptuous beauty is what we're seeing here. Now, his previous encounter with Forsaken had included Agenor and Balthamel, who looked
Hmm.
horribly scarred and aged from their time imprisoned with the Dark One.
One was a disgusting husk, and the other one must have been even worse because it was all covered in like leather and stuff to hide it. So
Decrepit. His face, in some way, she discerns what he's thinking. That Forsaken don't look this hot. As she points out, I was buried in a dreamless sleep where time did not flow.
Mhm.
So I truly do look like this.
rather than how Moraine had described those first two as being ground away by the turnings of the wheel.
Right. Rand questions then, okay, so you're here to kill me? She's like, no, of course not. I mean to have you forever. And points out, you were mine before that my notes are wrong. That something, pale-haired milksop stole him. That was it. And of course, we should be able to remember what she's referencing since she's calling him Luce Theron.
Elyena!
Elyena is blamed for stealing him from Lanfear. In her mind, that's how she sees it. It's like, before you met her, you loved me. And out of nowhere, Rand bursts out, and you loved power.
Gotcha.
And then they're both startled. They're like, what?
So Lanfear's the crazy ex-girlfriend, and Rand might be going crazy.
What shocks Rand is twofold. One, that he knew that. He has no idea where those words came from. But two, he knows he's right.
Mm-hmm.
Weird.
Lanfear, little
Lanfear,
video
she's
game
like,
achievement, memory unlocked.
there you go. Hey, and Lanfear, hearing that, senses, okay, you are remembering some things. So she doesn't actually deny it. She's just, okay, you're getting somewhere. And in fact, she is rather impressed with how much Rand has figured out already just on his own, stumbling around in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, if I had been able to, find you when you were first reborn, oh, how things could have been different. But I wasn't free yet. So I'm here now, and here's my plan. And she lays it out here. Okay. All of the Chosen have different ideas of what to do, but pretty much, aside from me, the rest of them want you dead or out of the picture in some way. They want you dealt with. I want you with me.
Mm-hmm.
And the Great Lord, he wants you also elevated and to learn and to come along here. But there are others of the Chosen who would just kill you. So what we need to do is we need to figure out how to get you back in full shape and power as fast as possible. So here's my plan. I'm going to arrange to have another of the male Chosen, Asmodean, teach you how to use the one power safely. I can't do that. It has to be a man, but he will do this. I will get him to do this.
That sounds great, but also like, no thanks.
Yeah, he wants nothing to do with this plan. She's like, no, really, once this is accomplished, we can rise in full power together. Honestly, we will be so strong. We access those other Sa'angreal that are out there, give us ultimate power. We could even challenge the Great Lord. Challenge the Creator. Nothing would be able to stop us. That's her plan.
Mm-hmm. I still say same thing.
Right. He sees her as nuts. Okay? This is nothing he wants anything to do with. She wants to turn him into some dark lord of power. And no, I'm a good guy. I have friends. People like me. I want to keep it that way. She's like, you are so stubborn. But you've always been stubborn. So now we're flashing back to Luce Theron again. Apparently, that's a trait they have in common. She says, fine, I will be patient. I will not just drag you with me for now. Because she's pointed out, I could just take you and have the Great Lord turn you. That can be done.
No
Whether that
thanks.
really could be done or not. But she says it could be done.
We've heard
But
something like it can be done.
could it be done to the dragon and have it work? Hard to
Unknown.
say. Hard to say. But she's not going to do that now. She says, I will have you, but I will be patient for now. I'll let this play out a little more. And then she looks at him and says, wait a second, what's wrong? Now, everything she said is wrong, but
Yes.
his face has taken on a different wrong. All of a sudden, like, whoo, what is wrong, Zach? Why is he suddenly got this different frown?
His spidey senses are tingling, and his eyes slide over a man. And wait a second. And it's hard to focus. But suddenly he reaches for the power. It is there. Flaming sword in hand. Man goes down, and oh, now I can see him.
Yeah, a gray man just tried to creep into the room and kill them. Or her, or him. Hard to say, because you can't talk to him now. He's dead. Power lightsaber did the trick.
Works out.
Now he realizes, of course, that when he created his sword, that means Lanfear had released the shield. So she did allow him to defend them.
Oh, she even goes so far as to say, yeah, I let you have that so that you could do that. She takes the credit.
And he's like, so all this stuff, and then you send this guy to kill me? It's like, no, that's not mine.
It wasn't
I don't
me.
use soulless. That's what she calls it. I don't use the soulless. And reminds him, I said, the chosen out there all have different plots going on, all have different plans for you. You need to be aware of that. So come on, come with me now. I'm going to invite you again. Let's get away from the dangers of whatever's coming at you now and really build you up to what you are fully capable of, because you have no idea at this point.
Mm-hmm. Lanfear claims that she just must have miscalculated the time and they were more willing to send people to kill him than she had expected. She wasn't expecting this for a few days. I want to say bull. I want to say she knew this was coming and thinks this is going to be a nice little tipping block. It'll be like, yes, I need to know how to do this. I'll go with you.
In Rand's mind, for all he's thinking, he could be thinking just that. This is all manipulation. He could be calling BS on everything she's saying. But instead of directly responding to what she said, he has a couple of revelations. One, for all the fact that she may be forsaken, when he looks at her standing right there in front of him, he still just sees a woman. And he doesn't think he could kill her. He might be able to try to find a way to shield her, do the things he'd done with Elaine and Egwene previously, but he can't just kill her.
When he's in his right mind and not sleep deprived and insane, he has issues with killing women.
Yeah. Second, though, it's like, what did you do to the Aiel outside the room? This gray man never would have been able to come in with them guarding. And she's like, I didn't do anything. So he goes to see what's going on out there. What happened? She's like, you really shouldn't do that. So maybe she does know something. But he goes and opens the door. That's the end of the chapter. We move into our last chapter, which continues immediately because the door is open and it's all really sucky out there. Just like it would have been really sucky for us to actually stop here. So this is going to be a slightly longer chapter, but this last one goes kind of fast. So chapter 10 is called The Stone Stands. Rand finds all 6 of his Aiel guards dead at his feet, tangled with the bodies of 3 more gray men. He can tell because they just look like plain, average Joes.
So the good news is, even these ridiculous super assassins, while, yeah, they got through, the Aiel got most of them.
Jordo in Discord is saying, amazing the noise-canceling powers of these doors and walls. Now, I'll suggest that perhaps the gray men didn't make a lot of noise. They are sneaky guys.
Or go a step further and say, maybe Lanfear didn't want their conversation heard.
Ooh, maybe the room
so
was
just blocked out the room.
That
After all,
possible.
Rand can't see what she does or doesn't do with the power.
Right. Now, Having opened the doors, there is a cacophony of sound coming at them. So it's not just dead bodies laying on the floor. Out in his antechamber, the defenders that were out there are in full-on battle against Trollocs and a Fade, a Myrddraal. And the noise just hits him. Battle, clashing swords and screams and stuff. And Rand, he steps into it.
Mhm.
He brings up his Sidene sword and he challenges the Myrddraal. And it turns to him and it attacks with his Thakandar blade against Rand's Sidene sword. Would you remind us what a Thakandar blade is?
So a Thakandar blade is a blade forged in the forge of Thakandar. It's up near Sheo Ghul, in these blasted lands. It's the place where Trollocs and their equipment and all that is going to come from. But especially, we were told sometimes some of the taint of that place seeps into the weapons. And so, like we saw in The Eye of the World, someone like Tam who gets hit with one of these blades can suddenly have that wound within minutes, festering and horribly infected.
Right. So Rand fighting one like that's a risk. He's facing this dangerous sword. Remember that, because it could come up again down the road. These are dangerous weapons. Rand gives a battle cry as he goes up against the Myrddraal. And he yells, "Rally to the stone! The stone stands!" And these are things he had heard used previously, I imagine, when the Aiel conquered the stone.
It's mentioned, actually, that he heard it when the Aiel and the defenders were fighting. The defenders were using it as their battle cry.
And now he's the one throwing these out there. And he does hear some of the defenders start copying him, joining into the battle. He's trying to give heart to them as he joins the battle. Behind him, he thinks Lanfear just yell out, "Fool!" But he has no time to pay attention to her because, bam, right up against the Fade. Now the Fade appears to be pretty good, handling a sword. However, Rand appears to be better, and before too long, he has separated the Myrddraal from its head.
I mean, we did see that, or at least we're told, that Rand has been spending most of his free time until he and Elaine got together with Lan. So he's been practicing a lot.
Mm-hmm. And thankfully, when he takes out the Myrddraal, all the Trollocs drop to the ground, all twitchy and stuff. They were connected. We know that happens sometimes, where a Myrddraal will be psychically linked to a fist of Trollocs. So it had these. Now they're in psychic blast back shock, and the remaining defenders take advantage of it and stabby. And that takes care of all of these Trollocs. So after we deal with who's dead and who's too wounded to go on, Rand has 23 defenders still up and battle ready. And he leads them on to see what else can we do, where else do people need help.
Because they can still hear more battle echoing and ensuing. So they chase and they go, and well, some of his defenders come and go, and eventually some aren't even the same ones anymore. And then none of them are the same ones anymore. But he pretty consistently for a while has people with him that he's
at one point he has
inspiring.
Twice as many.
Mm-hmm.
And at other times he's got like 2 or 3 because of all these different fights that they've come across throughout the way. Sometimes he's got Aiel with him. Sometimes it's more defenders.
And sometimes killing a Myrddraal takes out a whole bunch of Trollocs. Sometimes it's a painful battle the entire way through. But it's a lot of fighting.
Yes. At one point along the way, he sees Moiraine and Lan involved in fighting Trollocs. He's not in a position at that point to go help them because he and the couple guys he's with have a whole bunch of Trollocs to deal with too. By the time they take out those Trollocs, he actually goes back. It's just him now because one of the guys with him died and the other chased after a wounded Trolloc. So he comes back, but Moiraine and Lan are gone. They've moved on too. So it's a constantly boiling, moving process. All this fighting happening throughout the place.
I do want to quickly point out, I believe it is mentioned he sees Lan actually gets a little injured. Not too horribly, but enough that things look a little rough before suddenly they're just gone. And it's a nice little touch to just go, even these badasses
they can get dinged.
Yeah, they're not invincible.
Right. Now, he's seen Murdril, he's seen Trollocs, but he's also seen men fighting. And this is of note. It means there are dark friends in the stone. Whether they came with the bad guys or they already here and let the bad guys in undetermined at this point. But there are men fighting as well as the Trollocs and the Murdril. Lots of bad stuff going on throughout this place. He also sees Trollocs fighting Trollocs.
Well, that's weird.
What?
Maybe they just got caught up in their own bloodlust. That's what he
Battle
assumes.
frenzy. At one point, Rand comes around a corner when he's all alone. At this point, he's lost all the guys who were with him. It's just him. And he practically runs into 3 more Trollocs. And he might have been instantly killed at that point because he comes around. Whoa, they're right freaking there.
Notably, he wasn't. He was not instantly killed.
Because?
They're eating a noble woman.
Yeah. They're having some din-din. But they see him. They're like, oh! And so they react. He reacts a little faster. So he takes one of them out. He takes the second one out, but he gets knocked over in it, and the dead one falls on top of him.
It's kind of interesting the way it's because he got scared and is slipping on blood, slipping on a Trolloc he killed. It's a whole mess of, oh, I'm not perfect either.
So now he's pinned, and his sword is stuck under him, under this Trolloc. And there's a third Trolloc still standing here who's, for a Trolloc, smiling. I mean, a Trolloc smile is kind of hard to detect, but he's like, ha-ha! And then suddenly he gets hacked with a weapon from behind by another Trolloc. And the other Trolloc looks at Rand and also kind of does a snarling grin and then runs off. Rand pushes the Trolloc, the dead one, off of him, and he's like, did I just get saved by a Trolloc? And apparently he did, because now he hears Lanfear again. She isn't looking like she did before. She doesn't look like Selene either, but he knows it's her. She's in the appearance of a girl about Rand's age, and she's chastising him for taking such ridiculous risks when he has so much power. And with the snap of his fingers, this could all be done if you'd only listen.
You don't have to fight with the flaming sword.
She's not impressed by that thing. And he questions her. Says, did you just save me with that other Trolloc? And she denies it, specifically because she doesn't want him thinking, I'm going to come bail you out for your stupid decisions. But you need to understand the different chosen have different motivations. Someone here wants you dead, somebody else apparently doesn't, and has different orders, and they want you captive or something. I don't know.
Maybe they want you to go with, and maybe it was Lanfear, but she's not fessing up.
Right. Well, what she does say is, regardless of what all the others are doing, none of them know what I'm doing. Where I stand on all of this, I've stayed very outside of it and not letting my plans be known. And it's going to stay that way because I like it that way. So you cannot expect any direct aid from me. So no, that wasn't my Trolloc. I don't act that way on purpose. In disgust, Rand slams her up against the wall with the power. She's spread-eagled, trapped against a wall. 2 can play that game, so she slams him against the other wall the same way, literally saying, whatever you can do, I can do better. I don't think she sang it, but I heard it
accurate
when I read the line. And then she asks him, where is Kalendor? You didn't choose to take it up. You could have been using it all this time, but since you didn't take it, who might be? Somebody's here directing all this. What if they're getting Kalendor?
And he wants to be upset with her and poo-poo on all that, but really, yeah, she's right.
Yeah, Samael could be grabbing it right now. Even Moghedien, she names another chosen Forsaken. Moghedien, a female, could be taking it just so you don't have it. She can't use it. It's male, Sangreal, but she could barter it to another of the chosen and get something in return. There's all sorts of things that could be happening. You are being an idiot. And then she frees him from the wall. and he considers whether or not he should return the favor. It's like, maybe I should just leave her there. Something might happen. Problem solved. I didn't kill her. But before he can make that choice, she solves it for him, and his weaves are cut. And he feels a little power feedback, and she just drops to the floor gently. And he's like, you can't do that.
She snaps back. Yes, she can. She does not need to see weaves to cut them.
Emphasizing you don't know as much as you think you know. There is so much more. Oh, and by the way, Calendar? At which point, end the conversation. He turns around, runs for his quarters to get back to Calendar. He doesn't turn off for any of the battles that he runs past. He even hurdles a Trolloc at one point. He's got to get back to Calendar. He gets to his room. It's still there. Whew. He goes to it, hesitates for a moment. It's like, I don't really want to use it. But then he hears something behind him. Oh, there's a Fade walking into his room. So he grabs Calendar, and now he does something that he doesn't know how he did. It's like instinct. But he channels through Calendar. Oomph, extra oomph of power. And the Myrddraal, poof, burns to ash almost instantly.
Well, that was easier. You could have started with that.
Yeah. Again, he doesn't know how he did it, but he knows he can do it again. So let's go play with this. And he goes back out through the tower. Now he's looking for groups of Trollocs and Myrddraal, and every time he finds them, zap, zap, zap. Everybody go ash. This is not going well for them.
If he was just a little bit more mad, he'd be skipping through the walls, just doing a little bippity boppity dead.
The Stone of Tyr is huge. There's battles happening everywhere, and Rand's getting frustrated because everywhere he can get to, he's taken them out, but there's always more. He can't do the Shadow Spawn barbecue fast enough. People are still dying. So then he stops at one point. He goes, okay, wait a second. I've got to try something different. So he pauses, and he thinks, and he dives into the power even more fully, reaching through Calendar, and he does something else.
Yes, he creates your drink. He doesn't know what
he's doing. He creates what was my drink.
It's still a little. There we go.
Not anymore. He creates this little building cloud of power up above him. And when he gets to a point where he feels that's enough, he releases it. And what it does is it shoots lightning bolts both left and right down the corridors from where he's at. And as it's heading off one way, a Myrddraal comes out a hallway, and as it reaches him, it zaps down and bursts him to bits, just blows it to smithereens. And it splits and goes down the way it had come, plus continuing on. And basically, this little lightning storm goes through the entire stone. And everywhere it comes upon Shadow Spawn, wham, 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 they're getting blown up to bits. He can feel this. He can sense this. All of these Trollocs and Myrddraal dying. They can't flee. They can't hide. And it continues until there are no more.
Well, that's useful. I'm sure we're going to hang on to Calendar forever now because it's a very powerful tool.
Be a handy trick to use again, perhaps. Now, at that point, it's done. Rand relaxes. He's still got the power, and Calendar is still glowing, but the storm, the zapper is done. That's released. And he sees Moiraine standing nearby. And she's looking at him in shock. I mean, she's amazed. What he has just done, she didn't even think something like that was possible. Power to that degree. And she asks him, Rand, are you well? But instead of answering, he looks past her, and he sees on the ground a girl. Dead. Sprawled out, eyes staring vacantly.
Notably, when we
blood
say a
stain
girl,
on the chest where she's been killed.
What? 5, 6, 8?
Yeah. Young girl. Not a preteen, not a teenager. Someone young. And he's like, I was too late. Why couldn't I have thought of something like that earlier? He's frustrated at what he doesn't know. Because if he had
Mm-hmm.
known how to do this, so many people who are dead now, including this little girl, would still be alive. And Moraine sees his distress and he's like, I'll see that she's taken care of. But he's like, no, that's not enough. With this, and he's shaking Kalendor, I can do anything. Anything. And despite Moraine's warning, restraining him, he goes to the girl and he channels into her, and she rises up off the ground, jerky and all, but like a puppet.
Rand
She's
does
standing.
necromancy.
Yeah. He says, breathe, and she starts breathing. And to her heart, he's like, pump. And her heart starts pumping and the blood is flowing, but he looks in her eyes and there's no life.
Mm-hmm.
The body is moving. There's no life. And he turns to Moraine, heal her. She needs to live. And Moraine's simple response is death cannot be healed. Literally, you are not the creator.
You created a zombie. Zombies are canon in the Wheel of Time. But yeah, no.
Jordo threw it into Discord. Yeah, zombie fiction. I'm all for zombies. That's not happening right here now. Alas. Rand withdraws the power. The body falls back to the ground. And Rand just howls in despair. And there's a burst of power from him. Fizzling braids of fire shooting up to the ceiling and the walls. And he's just so frustrated and in so much pain. And then he lets go of Saidin.
Oh, good.
And then he asks Moraine, was I too late for my friends? Elaine, Perrin? And Moraine says, no. You weren't too late. Your friends are all still alive.
All the named people, save for anyone who will specifically get mentioned that died, is still alive.
It's okay, Rand. Only red shirts died.
Wow, how heartless of you to call a little girl a red shirt.
It is what it is. Cute red shirts are still red shirts. He is frustrated, though, at himself now. As he reflects for a moment, the past 3 days, all those stolen kisses in the corridors, when he was thinking maybe he had procrastinated, yeah, maybe his choices just caused this. This could have been completely avoided if he just moved faster.
And maybe it wouldn't have, but...
Second guessing. Rand asks how all these shadow spawn got into the stone, and Moraine and Lan, who's there also now, points out they snuck in at the docks right there at the stone. It has its private docks. There were some barges that came down the river full. Now, nobody questioned that. It's like, no, we send barges north on the river full, and they come back empty. These came back full. Yeah, they were full of Trollocs and Myrddraal, all hidden under the tarps, and someone let them in. Moraine then heals Rand. Not that he's, horribly wounded, but we talked about it. He's got his own nicks and scrapes. He's also exhausted. She doesn't take all of the tiredness from him, though. And she says, that's on purpose. You need some real sleep. I've left you some of your weariness so you can get some good, real sleep. Then he turns right around and says, Lanfear was here too. And she talked to me. She didn't try to kill me. She just talked to me. And I talked to her. And I didn't try to kill her either. And then he's like, and you're not surprised by that.
Well, Moraine always knows things that she doesn't share.
She also points out, Lanfear loved Lews Therin Tillman, the dragon. You are the dragon reborn. So she's transferring. She doesn't want to kill you. She wants you. And of course, we know she delivered that message at the end of the last book. So she has her eyes on Rand. Moraine knows this.
Mm-hmm.
The chapter ends with Rand then quietly stating, tomorrow. And Moraine's like, tomorrow? He says, tomorrow, I will tell you what I'm going to be doing. Now, internally, he's thinking, tomorrow, I'm going to unleash another kind of lightning. Another lightning that might save me, or it might kill me. I don't think I'm mad yet, though.
He's decided something that will be a shock to everyone. He finally settled on something.
Exactly. And tomorrow will be next chapter, because that's the it. That's the end. That's the end of the episode, and a fairly long one. So we will wrap this up pretty succinctly now. Thank you for being with us. If you're a first-time reader, we're gonna go into a spoiler room section in just a moment. But before
But
we do that, we want to, again, thank you. Come connect with us. Join us on Discord. You'll find invite link for Discord in our notes. We've got a nice community of people who enjoy Wheel of Time and other fantasy and sci-fi literature and movies and such. Come join us. Talk with us. Be our friend.
And if you even want to be able to be here on our Discord live while we're doing these recordings, interact like you've heard us mentioning here and there, or just support our show in a further way, check out our Patreon, where you can get a couple of benefits just as thank yous from us for that continued support.
That's right. Being part of live recordings is just one of the many benefits available for the different tiers of Patreon. Find us on social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. You can even email us at fantasyfortheages@gmail.com. We love hearing from our listeners and watchers. All right. First time readers, bye. We'll talk to you next time. Now,
we skipped a section.
Nope. I did it on purpose.
We're doing that after? Okay.
No, we'll do that another time.
We changed the notes.
That's right. Sometimes I have to cut things out because we're so long. Okay. Spoiler room. I still don't have a graphic ready for it, so.
You're good. I'm using a nice little sparkly die. It's got gold inside of it.
And I just have my pretty multicolored one. All right.
And the sparkly die is going to dice jail.
Wow, I got a 4.
You go first. I got a 3.
Oh, barely. Okay. I'm going to talk about Lanfear. How can I not talk about Lanfear here? It's laid out so crystal clear, finally, what Lanfear's full motivations are. One of the things that I did not catch the first time I read this book, and I may have missed it the second time I read this book, was that she laid out her full plan to have Asmodean be his teacher right here. I didn't catch that the first time. When it happens later on, I'm like, oh, cool. Got caught. It was her plan. And all the way back here, she already had it all laid out. But where I'm really going is she's laid out her full intention, not to kill him, but to bring him over. She wants to fully prepare him so that they can rule side by side and, even overcome the Dark One. She will still be playing that horn way back in the last book and trying to see it through. And of course, it's not going to happen, but she's consistent all the way through. She is, she's got some definite curveballs that get thrown her way along the series, but to see how clearly Robert Jordan had her lay out her plans right here was pretty impressive. And to see that all, how the connections get made the rest of the way, I enjoy.
It's kind of fun that it is blatant what her plan is, and yet it's done so subtly and in the shadow that even knowing it's there, there's not a whole lot you can do about it.
Right? All right, what are you going to spoil?
I want to talk about something she mentioned offhandedly. She referenced Kalendor and said there were only 2 other Saint-Angreal, male Saint-Angreal that could be used, that existed on that power level. And one of them she knows is still around. One of them she doesn't. I'm going to drop what both those are. The first being the Choden Call.
Yes.
The male version, extremely powerful. Use an access key, you do it. It's the big glowy statue sphere thing. We've seen it. The other one we don't see till the last book. And that's that chalice that Demandred brings back with him and is using in that last battle. And doing all these crazy things and using it as his focus to enhance his own powers. It's a holy grail kind of thing. And we didn't
Which you can learn how he gets if you read River of
Souls. And we didn't get that in the actual series, that part of it. We don't get a lot of information about it, but that's 100% the other one she's talking about.
Yep. Cool. There you go. And Jordo disagrees, by the way.
About what?
I'm not sure. He just says, I disagree. Maybe he doesn't think that's what it is. That last book item. He's saying,
Really?
he's not so sure. Interesting. You're throwing down a theory, perhaps.
I'm saying it's 100%.
I think your theory is merited.
Would be very interested to hear what other people might think.
There you go. Well, we know Jordan is good for telling us what he thinks, so we'll count for that to still happen as we get offline. And this episode, everyone, has been great to have you with us. Zach, always good talking with you. We'll talk to the rest of you next time.